Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I am your host, and this is going to be the true biblical teaching of Easter, which in those days was pronounced as Ishtar. In the English language, is spelled out as Easter, still pronounced exactly the same way. But in the biblical days of old, it was also called asherah and asherah. So I'm going to read to you from two different books this time: the King James Version of the Holy Scriptures, and then also from the complete Jewish Bible. That way you can get a more complete understanding of what this means. So this is Easter according to the Scriptures. Now, 2 Kings chapter 23, verses 4 through 6. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and for all the hosts of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem, in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. And he put down the idolatrous priest whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places of the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem. Them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the hosts of heaven. And he brought out of the grove from the house of the Lord. Now, grove means a wooden idol. And in what it doesn't say in these specific verses is the grove actually is the grove or the idol of Ishtar, or as you more commonly call it, Easter, a pagan goddess. And it's a pagan goddess of fertility, the pagan goddess of sexuality, the pagan goddess of bloodshed, and the pagan goddess of war. And he brought out the grove, or the asherah idol, from the house of the Lord, without Jerusalem, unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it to small powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the grove. So, there you go on that part there. Now I want to read to you from the complete Jewish Bible to give you more accurate names. Malachim Bet, which means 2 Kings, chapter 23, verses 4 through 6. Then the king ordered Hilkiyahu, the Kohen HaKadosh, the Kohanim of the second rank, and the doorkeepers to remove the sanctuary, to remove from the sanctuary of Adonai, which in here would be Jehovah, all of the articles that have been made for Baal, for the Asherah, and for the entire army of heaven. And he burned them up outside Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried their ashes to Beit El. He disposed the idolatrous priests, the kings of Yehudah, and ordained to offer on the high places by the cities of Yehudah, in the palaces surrounding Jerusalem. He also deposed those who offered to Baal, the sun, the moon, and the constellations, and the whole army of heaven. He took the Asherah from the house of Jehovah to Vadikadan, outside Jerusalem, and burned it in Vadikadran, stamped the ashes to powder, and threw the powder into the burial ground for the common people. 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 7, King James Version. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the grove. Now from the complete Jewish Bible. He smashed the houses of the cult prostitutes that were in the house of Jehovah, where the women also wove garments for Asherah. So there you go. So, women To celebrate Easter, asherah, astoreth, ishtar, you must dress as prostitutes, go to a pagan temple, go have sex, or rather, go whoring after other guys, and then get pregnant. Then 9 months later, in December, have a baby. Call it the sun god, the birth of the sun god. Just like the Roman god, just like the Roman emperor did with Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, or the sun god of Rome. Now, let us go to another place in Acts. Acts chapter 12, verses 1 through 4. King James Version. Now about the time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church, and he killed James the brother of John with the sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison, and delivered him to the 4 quaternions of the soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. So as you can see, Easter is in the Bible, in the Old and New Testaments. But it is in no way, shape, or form holy, godly, or a commandment of God, or a feast of God. It is completely pagan. Complete Jewish Bible. Acts chapter 12, verses 1 through 5. It was around this time that King Herod began arresting and persecuting certain members of the Messianic community. And he had Yaakov, Yochanan's brother, put to death by the sword. When Herod saw how much this pleased the Judeans, he went on to arrest Kepha as well. It was during the days of Matzah. So when Herod seized him, he threw him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by the 4 squads of 4 soldiers each, with the intention of bringing him to the public trial after Pesach. That there's one a few times is actually incorrect in the complete Jewish Bible. That should say ishtar. So Kepha was being held under watch in prison, but intense prayer was being made to God on his behalf by the Messianic community. So now you know the true history and meaning of the pagan demonic celebration of Easter, or Asher, or Ishtar, or Ashtoreth, or Astoreth. In Egypt, the same goddess is known as Isis, the goddess of sexuality, fertility, war, and bloodshed. So if you want to celebrate Easter in the correct way, women need to go to men in idolatrous temples and have coitus, and then get pregnant, 9 months later, have a baby. That's how you properly celebrate Easter, or Ishtar, or Ashtoreth, or Astoreth, or Isis. You're welcome.